When Melissa packed the car and left with our two kids for the beach, I'll admit, I felt a little buzz of freedom, not the wild party kind, just peace, silence, space to breathe. It had been years since I had the house to myself. No cartoons blaring, no toys on the stairs. Just me, a quiet living room, and 3 full days to catch up on work without a single interruption. Melissa had planned the trip for weeks. She said the kids needed a real break. Sandcastles, sunblock, seashells, the whole 9 yards. I stayed back, buried in some overdue projects. But deep down, I looked forward to the stillness more than I wanted to admit. That first night alone, I was halfway through organizing spreadsheets when I heard the knock. Sharp, fast, not the kind you ignore. It was my neighbor, Eric. Now, Eric's the type who knows everyone's business. Not in a nosy way exactly, more like neighborhood security. He always knows who's out of town, whose car is parked funny when a dog goes missing. Tonight, though, he looked wired. His eyes darted behind me as he spoke. "Hey, man," he said, "just finished setting up some cameras around the house. Got one facing the front porch now. Feels safer, you know?" I nodded politely, though honestly it sounded like overkill. We lived in a quiet suburb. Nothing ever really happened here. Eric didn't back off. "With your wife and kids out of town, you should do it too," he pressed. "You think it's safe till it's not. One of my buddies had a break-in last month, didn't even know till half his stuff was gone. These cameras, they let you check in from your phone, live feed. It's peace of mind, man." He had that look, like he knew something I didn't. I laughed it off, but later that night, the idea stuck. I found myself scrolling through security systems online. One caught my eye. Small, simple, could be set up in under an hour, and streamed live right to my phone. I bought it. Why? I didn't know. Maybe because of Eric. Maybe because the house felt too quiet. Or maybe something inside me already knew what was coming. I didn't tell Melissa. Didn't even think to. When the cameras arrived 2 days later, I set them up with this strange urgency. One by the front door, one by the garage, another facing the back. I tested the app on my phone, walked through the house, adjusted angles. It all worked perfectly. I stood in the living room that night and looked at my phone screen. 4 silent boxes showing every corner of my home. It should have felt like control. It should have made me feel safe. Instead, it felt like I'd just invited something into my life I couldn't unsee. Melissa and the kids got back 3 days later. The second they walked through the door, the house filled with noise again. Laughing, shoes kicked off, bags dumped everywhere. Melissa hugged me like she'd missed me more than the beach. She smelled like sunscreen and salt water. The kids were sunburned and loud and full of stories. It felt good, real, like everything was back to normal. We slipped into our usual routine fast. School runs, work, late-night movies, arguing about what to cook. I didn't even think about the cameras for a while. They just ran in the background, quiet and forgotten. Then one Tuesday morning, something popped into my head. Just a weird reminder. I hadn't checked the footage since they got home. I opened the app on my phone out of pure curiosity. That's when I saw him. A man. Tall, thin, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. He walked right through our front door like he owned the place. The timestamp showed it happened while the kids were at school. Melissa was supposed to be home alone. I stared at the screen, frozen. He wasn't a delivery guy. He didn't have a clipboard or uniform. And he didn't look around like he was lost. He moved like he knew the place. I checked the rest of the footage. He stayed for about an hour. Never looked at the camera once. Just drifted from room to room, slow, casual, comfortable. I tried to breathe. Maybe he was someone from the electric company. Maybe Melissa had scheduled a repair and forgot to mention it. But something about him, his body language, the way he touched the kitchen counter, the way he stood by the stairs, didn't feel right. That night, I didn't say a word to Melissa. I sat beside her on the couch like nothing was wrong. We watched a movie. She laughed at the dumb jokes. I smiled back. But inside, I was watching that footage over and over in my head. She hadn't said anything. Not a single mention of anyone being in the house. The next day, I checked the footage again. Nothing. Same the day after that. I told myself I was overthinking. Then 2 days later, he came back. Same man, same hoodie, same casual walk, like he belonged. Except this time, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. He walked straight into our living room and paused, like he was waiting. Then he looked up, right at the camera, just for a second, and smiled. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to make sense of that smile. It wasn't a friendly smile. It wasn't even smug. It was quiet and strange, like he knew I was watching, like he'd expected me, and then he just walked out of frame like it was nothing, like this was some routine visit. That smile stayed in my mind for hours after I closed the app. I didn't confront Melissa. I wanted to. God, I wanted to, but something in me said to wait. I wasn't ready for whatever her answer might be. So I kept quiet. I smiled. I played with the kids. I acted like I hadn't seen a stranger walk through my home and looked straight into the eye of the camera I'd installed without telling my wife. That night, I barely slept. I lay next to Melissa and listened to her breathe, her hand resting softly on my chest like nothing in the world was wrong. I wanted to believe nothing was, but that unease, the one I'd pushed aside, had taken root. I couldn't shake it. I couldn't ignore the slow-growing suspicion that something was happening under my nose, right in my own house. The next morning, I did what I knew I had to do. I ordered more cameras, smaller ones this time. Better angles, hidden. One went in the living room, tucked into a bookshelf, another in the hallway, the last one, the bedroom. That one hurt the most. But I needed the truth, even if it cut me in half. I didn't say a word to Melissa. I told myself it was just surveillance, that I wasn't snooping, I was protecting. But that was a lie. I needed to know what was going on when I wasn't around, what she wasn't telling me. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I checked the footage every morning after I got to work. Nothing for a few days. Just Melissa doing laundry, watching TV, making lunch, scrolling through her phone like always. Nothing out of place, nothing suspicious. Then came the 7th day. The kids had already left for school. Melissa was home alone. I opened the app like I always did, expecting another quiet day of nothing. But there he was again. Same hoodie, same walk, moving through my house like he'd been given a key. This time, he stayed longer, and what I saw next flipped my world upside down. He walked into the bedroom, and Melissa followed him in. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. Part of me wanted to shut off the screen, throw the phone across the room, and pretend this wasn't happening. But I couldn't. I watched them standing there in our bedroom, my bedroom. Melissa stood near the window, arms crossed like she was trying to act casual. The man didn't say much. He just stepped closer to her, slow, like he'd done it 100 times before. They didn't touch, not this time, but the air between them was thick. You could feel it, even through the grainy camera feed. Melissa looked at him the way she used to look at me, years ago, when everything was still good. She smiled. Not a polite smile, not a friendly one. A smile filled with something I hadn't seen from her in a long time. They talked for a while. I couldn't hear what they were saying. I didn't have audio on that camera. Stupid mistake, but I didn't need to. Body language said everything. The way she leaned toward him, the way he sat on the edge of the bed like it was his, like he belonged there. After 10 minutes, he left, just like that. No kiss, no touch. Just out the front door and gone. Melissa sat on the edge of the bed for a while after that, staring at the floor. Then she got up, fixed the pillows, and went to the kitchen like nothing had happened. That was the part that hit me hardest. Not just that she let him into our house, into our bedroom, but how easily she moved on after, like it wasn't a big deal, like it was just another Tuesday. I didn't eat dinner that night. I told her I wasn't feeling well. She didn't ask questions, Just told me to get some rest and kissed my forehead before tucking in the kids. That kiss burned. I wanted to pull away, but I couldn't. I froze, like some part of me was still hoping there was a chance this was all some huge mistake. I couldn't stop watching the footage. Every day, every camera angle. I started memorizing her schedule, when she left for errands, when she stayed home, when the kids were gone. I didn't want to become obsessed, but I already was. I was living two lives, one where I pretended everything was okay, and one where I watched the truth unfold from a screen. I didn't know what I was going to do, not yet. But I knew one thing for sure. The next time he came back, I needed more than video. I needed proof so clear it couldn't be explained away. No excuses, no lies, just the truth, cold and undeniable. And I had a feeling it was coming soon. I didn't sleep much after that. Every creak in the floor, every door closing in the night, made me open my eyes. I kept my phone next to me on the nightstand, always charged, always ready. I checked the cameras like clockwork, mornings, lunch breaks, even from the bathroom stall at work. I became addicted to the silence, waiting for it to break. Days passed. He didn't come back. I started to think maybe I'd imagined it all. Maybe it wasn't what I thought. Maybe they really didn't do anything. Maybe this guy was just some friend, or a contractor, or someone she owed a favor to. I clung to those maybes like a drowning man grabs a rope. But I didn't believe them. The unease was still there. It stayed with me at work, followed me home, sat next to me at dinner. Melissa had no clue. She smiled, laughed, made jokes like everything was fine. She still kissed me goodnight, still curled up against me in bed. Her warmth felt like poison. One night after the kids were asleep, I stared at her while she read a book in bed. Her hair was tied up, glasses on, feet tucked under the blanket. She looked peaceful, familiar, and I hated that I couldn't trust a single thing about her anymore. The next morning, the routine started again. Kids off to school. I headed to work. I logged into the camera feed the second I got to my desk, heart already racing. At first, everything was normal. Melissa in the kitchen, drinking coffee, scrolling her phone. She moved to the living room and turned on the TV. I fast-forwarded through most of the footage, minute by minute, until around 11 a.m. That's when it happened. He came back. Same hoodie, same gait, same calm, like he had every right to be there. I watched him walk in, and this time, Melissa didn't look surprised at all. She was already waiting in the hallway, phone in her hand, smile on her face, no hesitation. They walked into the bedroom together, and this time the door closed. I sat frozen at my desk, staring at the timestamp. My pulse thudded in my ears. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The camera in the hallway caught nothing but silence. The bedroom feed, motionless. Still images, no movement, just the shut door. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to see what I knew I'd see, but I had asked for this. I had installed that camera. I had chosen to know. Now there was no going back. At 12:07 p.m. the door opened. He walked out first. Melissa followed a minute later, her hair down, wearing a different shirt. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, like she had just folded laundry, like nothing had happened. I sat at my desk, phone in hand, feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I didn't move. I didn't speak. My entire body felt numb. It was real, all of it. Now I had to decide what to do with it. I didn't go home right after work that day. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for over an hour, just staring at the steering wheel. I couldn't walk through that front door pretending everything was normal. Not again. I needed time to think, to breathe, to figure out my next move. Melissa texted around 6. Everything okay? Should I start dinner? I stared at the message, then typed back, running late. Grab something without me. She replied with a heart emoji. The nerve of it. That calm, casual tone, like she hadn't just invited another man into our home, into our bed. It made my hands shake with anger. Eventually I drove to the lake. I parked by the edge, watched the water, and sat with the silence. That's when it really landed. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some stupid moment of weakness. This was planned, repeated. Normal for her now, and she'd hidden it so well. I wanted to confront her, to blow up right then. I wanted to slap my phone down in front of her and make her watch the footage, but I knew how she'd react. She'd cry. She'd twist the story. Maybe even blame me for not being emotionally available or some other garbage. No, not yet. I needed more. I needed everything. So that night, while she was upstairs reading, I stayed out in the garage and set a plan in motion. I ordered 2 more cameras, better ones. One had a wider lens and night vision. The other recorded high-quality audio. I was done taking chances. If she was going to keep doing this, I was going to capture every second of it. I installed both cameras in the bedroom. One I placed high in the corner of the room, hidden behind a decorative shelf. It covered the entire bed, clear as day. The second smaller camera went inside the nightstand drawer, with just the lens peeking through the corner. That one captured sound. Every whisper, every lie, every breath. I tested them, synced them with the app, and confirmed they were working before I left the room. If she brought him back, I'd see it all. Every angle, every word. The next few days were a blur. I kept up the act, smiling, playing the role of the clueless husband. Meanwhile, I checked the footage every night, scanning for signs. I didn't sleep much. I didn't eat much. I was living on rage and focus. Then it happened again. 4 days later, same man, same timing. This time they didn't even bother with the usual pretense. They went straight into the bedroom. And now I had all of it. Clear video, full sound from every direction. Everything I needed. Everything she had hidden. I watched the footage in silence. No blinking, no moving, just watching. The sound was clear, too clear. I could hear their voices, the low laughter, the way she whispered to him like they were alone in the world. It wasn't just physical, it was familiar. Practiced, intimate, like this had been going on for a while, maybe longer than I wanted to believe. They joked about me. That part stung more than anything. She called me predictable, said I wouldn't catch on, that I never paid attention anyway. He laughed, told her she was too smart for me. Then they made plans to meet again, same day next week. I sat back in my chair, every muscle locked. My phone was still in my hand, but I couldn't feel it anymore. My brain wasn't even angry. It was quiet, cold, focused. There were no more doubts, no room for excuses, no space for forgiveness. I backed up all the footage to a drive, made copies, uploaded everything to the cloud. I didn't want to lose a single second of it. I wasn't just gathering evidence. I was building a wall around myself. I needed this protection, not just for legal reasons, for my sanity. Because if I didn't document this down to the last breath, I might start doubting my own eyes. And I wasn't going to give her that chance. That night when I got home, I acted normal. I hugged the kids, ate dinner, asked Melissa about her day. She smiled, said it was uneventful, told me she cleaned the house and watched a cooking show. No mention of anything else. Her lies came so easily now. As she talked, I watched her face. Every blink, every fake laugh, and I wondered how many times she'd lied like this before, how long she'd been able to fool me without breaking a sweat. But the thing is, she didn't know I wasn't fooled anymore. She didn't know I had seen her secrets from every angle, heard every word, watched every movement, and she sure as hell didn't know I was done pretending. By the time Friday came around, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to scream or throw things. I wasn't even going to tell her I knew. That would give her too much power. Let her twist the story, cry her crocodile tears, pull the kids into it, or worse, start lying about me to cover her tracks. No. I was going to let her hang herself with her own rope. That morning, I left for work like usual, packed my bag, kissed the kids goodbye, and told Melissa I might be late getting home. She smiled and said, "Don't work too hard." I watched her for a second longer than usual. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but didn't care. In the truck, I made a call. A buddy of mine who used to be a cop now worked in private security. I told him I needed someone to sit across the street from my house with a camera. He didn't ask a lot of questions. He just said, "What time?" I gave him everything. Time frames, the man's description, the angle I wanted. I didn't want just the inside footage. I wanted her lover caught walking into my house in broad daylight, smiling, comfortable, like it was just another visit. I needed outside proof to go with the inside video. I even left the front door unlocked for them. I know, that probably sounds crazy, but I wanted to make sure he walked right in like he always did. No suspicion, no obstacles, just confidence. I wanted to capture how natural it was for them now, like I didn't even exist. I spent the rest of the day pacing in my office, barely able to sit still. My phone stayed on my desk, volume turned up. Around 11:47, it buzzed with a message from my guy. He's here, walked in like it's his damn house. I didn't reply, just stared at the words, feeling something inside me finally shift. I waited, 1 hour, 2. He left around 1:30. My guy caught it all on camera, him coming in, staying, and walking back out like he had nothing to hide. I called him and said, "Send me everything." He said, "You sure you want to see it all?" I told him, "I already have." That night I came home early. Melissa looked up from the couch, a little surprised, but smiled anyway. "Hey, you're back early." "Yeah," I said, taking off my coat. "Had a slow afternoon." We ate dinner like always. The kids laughed about something they saw at school. She leaned on my shoulder when we watched TV. But inside, I wasn't with them. I was already gone, because tomorrow morning I'd be calling a lawyer. And when I showed him what I had, this whole thing was going to burn. Saturday morning was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels fake. The house was still, sun leaking through the blinds, the hum of the fridge the only sound. Melissa was in the kitchen making coffee, humming some tune like she had a clear conscience. I watched her for a while. She looked so normal, like the woman I married, like the mother of my kids. But now, I couldn't look at her without seeing the man in the gray hoodie, seeing her close the bedroom door behind him, hearing the way she laughed with him when she thought no one was listening. I had the footage ready, every camera angle synced and cut together, right there on my tablet. I had a copy on a flash drive in my jacket pocket. I had another one in the glove box of my truck, and one in a cloud folder only I could access. I wasn't taking chances. She sat across from me at the table, sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone like it was any other weekend. I waited until the kids had gone to their friend's house, the house empty except for the two of us. "Melissa," I said, calm, cold, "we need to talk." She looked up, surprised at my tone. "What's wrong?" I didn't say anything. I just tapped the screen. The footage started playing. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at. Just a security cam feed. Then the man appeared, entering our house, walking through the hallway, entering our bedroom, her following him, smiling. The blood drained from her face. She looked at me, eyes wide, mouth open, but nothing came out. "Keep watching," I said, and she did. She watched herself close the door, watched it all from every angle, watched the full weight of her double life unfold in silence, her hands now trembling in her lap. When the final clip ended, I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The truth was already in the room. She finally spoke, voice small. "It's not what you think. Don't," I said, cutting her off. "Don't lie. Not now." Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't care. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't know how to stop. I stared at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt nothing. No more confusion, no more hope, just clarity. "I'm filing for divorce," I said. "I already have a lawyer. He has everything. The videos, the timeline, the names, it's all documented." She covered her mouth with her hand, but I kept going. "You brought him into my house, into my bedroom, around my kids. You lied to my face every single day. I'm done." The silence after that was suffocating. She tried to reach for me. I stood up. "You don't get to cry now," I said, turning away. "You already made your choice. This is just the part where you finally see what it cost you." And with that, I left the room. I didn't stay at the house that night. I couldn't. After what I'd seen, After everything I'd heard, being under the same roof with her felt like trying to breathe underwater. I packed a bag, grabbed my laptop and phone, and left. No dramatic exit, no shouting. Just the sound of the door closing behind me. The kids were still at their friend's house, and thank God for that. They didn't need to see their mom crying or hear me say what I was about to say. They deserved better than the mess we'd made. The next morning I came back. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting for me like she knew what was coming. Her eyes were red, her face pale. I didn't sit. I didn't move close. I stayed right by the door. I talked to a lawyer, I said, calm, cold. It's time to file for divorce. She looked up, her mouth slightly open. I didn't let her speak. It's going to be done right, professionally. I gave him everything. Proof, dates, recordings. He knows what to do. Her lips started to move. Wait, please. Can we just talk before you do this? You don't have to make a decision like this overnight. I shook my head slowly. I'm not making this decision overnight. I made it the second I saw you walk him into our bedroom. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but I kept going. You don't get to rewrite this now. You made your choices. You brought him into my house, into my life. You lied to my face every single day. I was just the guy taking out the trash and paying the bills while you played pretend. Tears welled up in her eyes. I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. He was just there. You were always working, always tired. I felt alone. I laughed, sharp and quiet. That's funny. I felt alone too. I just didn't cheat. I didn't stop loving you, she whispered. You stopped respecting me, I said. And you don't come back from that. She broke down then. The crying, the shaking, the whole thing. I watched for a second, then turned and walked out of the room. The divorce moved fast. Once my lawyer had the footage, the timeline, and the written logs I'd kept, it became a matter of procedure. He told me I had one of the cleanest cases he'd seen in years. No drama needed, just facts. She tried to push back, said it was a one-time mistake, that she was still a good mother, that she deserved another chance. Her lawyer made noise about joint custody, about splitting assets evenly, but the evidence killed all of that before it left the ground. When we went to court, she barely looked at me. She sat at her table, eyes on the floor, like a student caught cheating on a final exam. I didn't feel satisfaction, just quiet, like watching a chapter close. The judge saw what I saw. She didn't argue when he awarded me primary custody of the kids. She got every other weekend, supervised for the first 6 months. I didn't fight for the house. I didn't want to sleep in a place where I'd caught ghosts on camera. She could keep it. What I wanted was peace, and my kids. They didn't know the full story. I kept it that way. I told them Mom and Dad weren't going to be living together anymore, but that we both still loved them. My daughter cried. My son asked if it was his fault. I told him no, and I meant it. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. I think they already knew something was broken before I said a word. In the months that followed, I moved into a small rental house. Simple place, clean, quiet. I took the kids to school, made their lunches. We went for bike rides on weekends. I started to sleep again. Melissa tried to reach out a few times, texts, a voicemail or two. She wanted to talk, apologize, say things she should have said earlier. I never answered. There was nothing left to talk about. One night, about 6 months after everything ended, I was sitting on the back porch. The kids were inside, watching a movie. The air was cool, and for the first time in what felt like forever, it didn't hurt to breathe. I didn't feel angry anymore, not sad, not even bitter, just done. And that honestly felt better than anything else in the world.